Hey guys, this is me when I'm playing Fear and Hunger. Anyways, this game has gotten quite popular, hasn't it? A few big name YouTubers made a video about it and now the floodgates are open. The game has grown explosively and so has the coverage about it. So what can I, bottom feeder of a YouTuber that I am, offer you? Well, I've noticed that a lot of the interest around the game comes from people who are fascinated by it, but have absolutely no interest in playing it. To those of you, I am going to offer you this. A coverage so in-depth about the game that it serves as a surrogate experience to playing it. That means I'm going to spoil you everything, and this is your only warning. While obviously I could never give you the actual experience of playing the game, I can show you what makes it so special and make it possible to pretend on social media that you played it. I will do this by first outlining what Fear and Hunger is all about and giving you a summary of my playthrough. Then I'll also summarize the lore, characters and themes. So, let's begin. The game is set on the titular dungeons of Fear and Hunger, and we get to play as one of the 4 delvers of the dungeon. There's Kahara, the mercenary, Darcy the knight, Enki the dark priest, and Ragnavaldr the outlander. Each one of these main characters is connected by their motivation to find Legard, the legendary captain of the Knights of the Midnight Sun, who's being held prisoner deep within the dungeons. He's a man prophesied to unite the continent of Europa without needing to resort to violence, but the monarchy of Rondon, fearing his ascent, conspired against him to take away his freedom. Each character has a distinct reason for wanting to reach the man. Kahara is simply doing a gig. He got hired to rescue the captain. His wife is with child and he needs the money to support her, ideally so she can quit working at the brothels. Darcy is a trusted subordinate of Legard, and she's severely in love with him. She wants to save him and earn his affection. Enki is on a pilgrimage of knowledge and wants to uncover the meaning of the prophecy surrounding the captain. He was about to commit suicide via ritual crucifixion, apparently out of ennui, but at the last moment he got a series of visions that compelled him to step back and travel to the dungeons instead. Ragnavaldr is a victim of Legard's ambitions. He seeks to take back a relic violently stolen from his clan, and to get revenge for the murder of his family and friends. Each character has their own specialties and their own way of dealing with enemies and obstacles, but regardless of which one you choose, the core gameplay stays the same. You explore the dungeons whilst managing your status and resources. Over time, your hunger and mind meters drop, so you gotta use consumables to keep yourself fed and moralized. Likewise, if you get hurt in a fight, get an infected foot by stepping on a rusty nail, or get afflicted by whatever other misfortune, you need to have the corresponding item to heal that specific ailment. If you don't attend to your afflictions quickly, you're likely to die in short order. Another essential resource is torches, which you consume to be able to see in low light areas. Most of the game is quite dark, so if you run out of torches, you're gonna be staring at your reflection on a pitch black screen. You can get any of these essential consumables by rummaging through crates, barrels and chests. You interact with the object and the game randomly spits out an item. If you're lucky, you'll get something decently useful. You can also do the same for equipment and books by checking armories and bookshelves respectively. Bookshelves are especially useful because if fortune is on your side, you can get rewarded with new skills, spells or recipes. The best loot you can get from them is an empty scroll, which you can use to wish for anything. But only if you know the magic words. As for combat, the game is a standard turn-based RPG, except for the fact that each of your enemy's limbs has its own turn and unique attack. For example, for this enemy the left arm slashes and the right one grapples, and he also slaps you with his pee-pee. So, the name of the game is Dismemberment, because a human McNugget doesn't strike back. You just gotta be careful that someone else doesn't do the same to you. Sometimes you can solve a fight by talking, but that's not a truly reliable option. In this game there's no leveling or XP and most enemies don't even give a reward when defeated, so as in real life the best course of action is just to avoid getting into a fight, as you will almost certainly gain nothing and almost certainly risk injury. Another quirk of the game is saving. To save, you just gotta sleep on a bed. This will prompt you to do a coin flip, which is the last of the base mechanics of the game. If you fail the flip, you get woken up by one of the dungeon's gentle staff members, and don't get to save your progress. If you manage to survive the aggressive serving of breakfast sausage and wanna try saving again, you gotta leave the area and come back. If you succeed the coin flip, you have a nice nap and get to save. The coin flip mechanic is something you'll encounter often and in many different circumstances. I already mentioned how it works regarding saving, but it will also come at play when opening chests or rummaging through armories and bookshelves. Succeeding means you get something good.
Oh, Marco! The phone ring! I got the thing that everybody...
Failing means you get nothing or something lame. If you encounter a coin flip unexpectedly, especially during combat, it means something bad is about to happen and you fucked up. Fortunately, you can compensate for ignorance with an ace on your sleeve. If you have a lucky coin in your inventory and hold shift before choosing heads or tails, you'll consume it to draw 2 coins instead of just 1. This ups your chances of success to a whopping 75%. Whether you use these small mercies to try for good loot or to save your skin, it's up to you. Also, you can encounter and recruit all the playable characters, and even some other weirdos into your party if you meet the right criteria. But if you play in hard mode, you're on your own, and also you can't save for that matter. Honestly, the most difficult part of hard mode is not being able to save scum and having to endure a 2-hour run when you're already past your bedtime. In any case, that covers the base mechanics of the game, so let's head back to the start, just after character selection. Once you've chosen your Delver and started the game, you can optionally go through a small character-specific scenario in which you're given a set of choices. These choices determine your starting skill set and equipment, and as an aside, you get a bit of lore on your dude. While you won't be severely crippling yourself by choosing whatever sounds cool to you during these sequences, there are clearly some options that are better than others. For example, in my first playthrough, in which I played Ragnar, I chose very badly. I opted to stock up on equipment before entering the dungeon, which yielded me some iron arrows. The problem was that before that, I had decided on using an axe and shield as my starting weapons. I thought that maybe later I would be able to pick up a bow and learn the marksmanship skill, but I never got the chance to do so I essentially wasted that bonus. The riskiest choice that I made though was agreeing to pick up a relic. This initiated a coin flip that, had I failed, would have given my character a permanent phobia that would make him do slightly less damage to all enemies. Among all characters, this is the only option that can hurt you in a way. I did succeed a coin flip, but as a reward I just got a minorly helpful item. Ironically, if I had chosen to go in empty-handed in these 2 options, I would have gotten the dash skill, which is the most useful skill in the game in my opinion. Dash increases your base movement speed, which allows you to avoid enemies with ease and conserve resources while moving from area to area. As you can see by this, the less you know in Fear and Hunger, the more risk you unwillingly take. Case in point, my first 2 minutes playing the game. So, I created my character and arrived at the outside of the dungeons. Thinking I was safe before entering the place, I took a quick break to check out my phone. The game played some barking sounds in the background, but I paid them no mind. A minute later though, I was jump scared out of my seat by some eardrum bursting crusty ass barks as a pack of dogs began assaulting my character. In no time, I was mauled to death. This is the kind of things for which the game gets its fame for. Sudden deaths, no hand-holding, little warning, and no explanation. It's 100% pure trial and error gameplay, at least at first. Which begs the question, does this make the game difficult? Maybe. The thing is, it's a game dependent on knowledge and luck, not skill. It is punishing, but not challenging. What do I mean? For example, if you pop Mega Man, you grab the controller, you or whatever, you move, you jump, you shoot, when you get good, you win. In Fear and Hunger, by contrast, you add little pieces of knowledge together through experimentation until you have a working strategy, or you just look at the wiki. Then, it's just a matter of trying enough times until you succeed. If you don't know the correct solution to a specific encounter, you may literally get fucked in the arse. But once you get to know the dungeons, once you understand what's where, who's what, and what does who, the game is not hard at all. It can be pretty cheesable in fact. Still, on your first playthrough you're gonna be a blind man in the middle of a war zone. My first experience was dying over and over, trying different routes, experimenting with what I could and couldn't do, and just witnessing the horrors of the dungeon. For all my bumbling about, I quickly learned a few important things. The first is to save if you can when you get a stroke of luck. You want to preserve any important advantages you get, so if you acquire a great item, skill or weapon, head to bed. I also learned that when there's no remaining enemies on an area, nobody will wake you up and you can save risk-free. This pairs very nicely with the second lesson, which is that every enemy has a strategy that makes combat with them feasible. If you learn how every limb behaves, you can most likely avoid severe damage. This is especially true because guarding nullifies a lot of coin flip attacks, so if you know the tell for a big attack, you can just avoid it. Many fights, but not all of them, become relatively risk-free when armed with appropriate preparations. Yes, even the Crow Mauler, an overpowered enemy that chases you around the dungeon and can insta-kill you, can be brought down to his knees with no casualties. Third thing I learned is that there's logic to every challenge in Fear and Hunger. For example, you can figure out if jumping into a pit is going to kill or maim you by dropping a rock in and listening to when it hits the ground. Experimenting goes a long way, and over time you'll discover fun things like that you're able to verbally convince a zombie that he's supposed to stay dead, or that you can dispel the necromancy that you failed casting and is now trying to kill you. Fourth thing I learned is to never rush. Everything can be going just perfect until you step on a bear trap because you were going too fast. And the final lesson I learned is that the game is quite buggy. Some bugs are harmless, some will fuck you over, and some you can use to your advantage. Nothing will match the moment when I was about to be crushed by a boulder, pressing interact with everything out of sheer desperation, only to have my imminent death phase through me like a warm summer breeze. This may sound a bit trivial, but there's a difference between my first playthrough being 13 hours of frustration versus the second one being a 3-hour power walk. So, to make it very clear, here's a quick and easy on how to beat Fear and Hunger. You first enter through the left side of the dungeon, because if you enter through the front, you get mauled by dogs. You go down, avoiding all enemies until you get to the prisons, and you head east and up till you loop back to the front entrance. In here you rescue this little girl, which for now will serve us as a meat shield. You rummage through bookshelves until you find a mock-up book, which will allow you to go through a secret passage. In here there is a small knife lying around. Give the knife to the girl so she can stab people in the head for a direct kill. After that, head back to the prisons and find a doll and a lever. Giving the doll to the girl will earn you her affection, so now she'll jump in front of any attacks that will kill you. Pulling the lever enables an elevator that leads down to the next floor. Go back to the meat passageway connecting the side entrance and the front entrance and head down the elevator. In the caves, go find a bridge and walk through it. A wolf will chase you, but fear not, if you throw them 2 pieces of rotten meat, you will recruit them. The wolf is called Moonless. She's a really good girl, attacks twice per turn, inflicts bleeding, and pees everywhere. Now head north and go into the mines. In the first segment of the mines, you'll want to unlock a door that leads to a pond and fight an optional boss. With the help of Moonless, you shouldn't have too much trouble. Using a soulstone on the dead salmon snake will give you its soul, which unequipped prevents limb loss during combat, but also instantly heals bleed and infection. That means you don't need bandages or green herbs to heal you anymore. After that, head deeper into the mines, but be careful of the mages as they'll rip off your limbs from afar. Kill them before they end your run. Keep heading north till you're in the cave dweller village. If you climb the west side stairs near the area's entrance, you'll find Darcy being assaulted. Rescue and recruit her and make good use of her fast attack skill. In the village you will need to find some rope and the Cube of the Depths. The rope will lower you safely to the next area, and the cube will open the door to the endgame section. Be careful when you take the cube, because the villagers will get angry. Use a rope to climb down the sacrificial pit and keep moving forwards and left. Just be careful to avoid the ghosts, because they give a mean suck, which will permanently drain you out of your youth and strength. And also you cannot hurt them without using cursed weapons or magic. In the catacombs you will find Legard, who, much like a delivery pizza, will be mangled, cold and lifeless if it's been more than 30 minutes. If you get to him in time, you can recruit him. In this area there's also a big purple heart which you can cut down. If you find and cut down all 3 of them, you unlock 2 extra possible endings. Now, we could use the cube straight away and head to Mahabra, but since we're under-equipped, we're gonna head back to the forest using this very convenient shortcut. If you blow up the debris in the top right corner of the map, you unlock a passageway that leads to the insides of a magical tree. If Ragnavaldr's folktale is to be believed, this is what became of the human bride of an ancient god. So, we go inside her trucy and traverse the area by jumping into her holes and pushing into her walls. Our goal is to find a very overpowered weapon called the Eastern Sword and maybe recruit Ragnavaldr. The sword does a lot of damage and has a big chance of doing critical hits. So find a weapon, cut down another purple heart, and once you're at the bottom, you're ready to enter Mahabra. Optionally, you can upgrade the Eastern Sword by killing the ghost that haunts it. The ghost will attack at random once you have the weapon in your inventory, but 2 hits of its own blade will kill it. Double optionally, if you recruit Legard, you can use his leg sweep skill to exploit a bug and force open the door in the level 1 basement. Here we find a Miasma Sword, which is the weapon with most raw damage in the game. But regardless if you're Legardless or leg sweepless, you can kill the Crow Mauler to get a key to the door. Super optionally, if you have a book called The Passages of Mahabra, you can pull the stuck sword in the mines and teleport before the place collapses. Which, even more optionally, you can enchant at a Hexen table using 4 soul stones to make it deal extra burn damage. but ultra optionally you can turn all the torches in the entrance and steal a key from this guy to get the best armor in the game. And giga optionally you can play trivia with a yellow mage and then mess around in the flesh pit to get an invincible party member. Now, done with optionalities, we open the catacombs doors and head to Mahabra. In here, we need to defeat 3 bosses in whatever order and get their souls. There are these machines scattered all over the place that you can use to jump into the past or the present, which will be necessary to solve a few puzzles. If we head east, we arrive to a tower which has a bed inside. After going to sleep in here while in the past, we're taken to a dreamscape where we experience all the backstories of the main characters. At the end of this sequence, we fight the Skin Granny. Defeating her allows us to meet Nilvan, the Endless One, and she pleads us to take her child, the little girl, to the Heart of Darkness. It is revealed that the girl is half human and half new god, and that she was conceived in hopes that she may ascend into a being on par with the older gods and thus guide humanity into a brighter future. New gods are ascended humans, and old gods are primordial beings. If we agree to Nilvan's plea, we get the Endless Soul. If we head west, we arrive at the Grand Library. There, we need to solve a puzzle with some statues to open a secret door. Inside, we chase Baal Teal, the Enlightened One, into an infinite abyss of books and fight him. You can fight him normally or damage him by answering trivia, just be careful of his brain penis. Defeating him gives us the Enlightened Soul. If we head southwest, we arrive at some slums. We need to jump down one specific pit, create a clone of ourselves in a secret laboratory, and torture it in the Temple of Torment to summon the boss. You can sacrifice a party member to the same effect, but using the clone is a way to avoid that, of course. After the ritual, Ron Chambara, the Tormented One, appears before us and we must fight him twice. Killing him yields us the Tormented Soul. With these 3 souls, we can enter the Golden Temple at the center of the city. Fun fact, you can skip any of these boss fights by killing the main characters and using a soulstone on them. Kahara gives you the Endless Soul, Ragnavaldr the Tormented Soul, and Enki the Enlightened Soul. Darcy's Dominating Soul is not necessary. In any case, we need to enter the Golden Temple in the present. Here, we get the key to the throne and the final purple heart. If we destroy all the 3 hearts, the Altar of Darkness opens. From then on, we can choose to go to the throne or go into the Heart of Darkness. Sitting on the throne means we get to become a new god, and taking the girl to the abyss means fulfilling our promise to Nilvan. To get to the throne, we need to enter the Golden Temple in the past, pass through a few traps, and kill Francois the Dominating, who you can stunlock by repeatedly calling him cringe. After the fight, sit on the throne. If the guard is in your party, he will betray you and take godhood for himself. In any case, sitting on the throne takes us to the Void, which is basically a green moon with dinosaurs on it. Our party members get separated on arrival, so you better gather them up if you want to have an easier time during the final encounters. The Void loops in on itself and is apparently unescapable, but the only thing you need to do is follow this wooden path. Arriving at the end of it, we fight Sylvian, a fragment of an older god and the last and most powerful penis in the game. After defeating her, yes, her, we head to the final confrontation. If the guard betrayed you, you get the option of kneeling to him or rejecting him. Rejecting him means you get to fight him. Kneeling means you accept him as a god. Whatever you do in the end, you just get taken back outside, forever scarred by the experiences of the dungeon. The only difference is that if you allow Legard to live, he will use his power to become king and bring a new era to mankind. Otherwise, if you disregard Legard, you get to become a god and are given a series of options to dictate the kind of deity you become. Personally, I took us back to the Iron Age by chimping out while interfering on human affairs. Before we continue, there's a cool detail I want to mention, and it's that every character gets a different godly form. Kahara gets long hair and scars in the shape of his armor sigil. Enki spices up his outfit with an Iron Maiden on his head. Darcy decides to hop on steroids, giving her male pattern baldness and an appreciation for manspreading. Finally, Ragnavaldr gets eaten by a bear. If we reject godhood and head to the Heart of Darkness, we're greeted by a gauntlet of traps and enemies. Just as before, the endings fork. There's one for you if you head to the bottom with the girl, and another if you do so without her. Taking the girl to the bottom means we have to fight her, as she slowly and gruesomely transforms into the god of fear and hunger. Do you remember the doll and the knife we gave her at the beginning? Well, she reminisces about those moments, the only kindness she ever received, making her stop attacking for a few turns. Given that she's on par with an older god, we can't truly win the fight, and she embraces us with a peaceful death in the end. On the other ending, not bringing the girl to the Heart of Darkness means that a fragment of Grogor Goth, the old god of destruction, rises out of curiosity and comes fight us. Winning the fight makes the old god question our motivations, and depending on how you answer, you get a different piece of lore. In the end, he explains that the older gods are but the pure expression of a concept. Things like creation or destruction. Turns out that the Grogor Goth and Sylvian that we fight in the game are nothing but the smallest, weakest and stinkiest traces of what was once their presence. The gods abandoned the world and humanity because a personal perception of any individual taints the very concept that they represent. And while this makes the symbols manageable to the human mind, it makes true communication with the older gods impossible. Forcing the pure symbol of any such concept onto a human would just break them. Disappointed by this, they just up and left. Amused by our perseverance though, Grog shows his true form to our character, whose body shuts down out of terror and confusion and immediately dies. There's another ending if you try to escape after finding Legard, but it doesn't really count, you just are unable to escape the dungeon. All in all, every ending is quite bleak and miserable, but there is still hope, for there is a unique, special, and almost certainly quite probably canon ending for every character. And these are only accessible in hard mode. From easiest to hardest, here are the special endings. Darcy's ending requires you to find Legard dead, and then head to Mahabra's libraries. In here she finds the instructions for a spell of resurrection. She casts the spell on Legard, only for him to come back as a deranged, skinless monster. Darcy hopes that in this form, she can somehow make him belong to her completely. I beat this ending first try, since I got 4 empty scrolls in one go. Kahara's ending requires you to find Legard dead, buy some treasure maps from a shady vendor, and then unearth them from Mahabra. Doing so will make the vendor try to kill you and take everything for himself. After you kill him, you gotta loot him to find the 3rd map. Unearthing the 3rd treasure gives you an ultra valuable crown. After leaving the dungeon, Kahara returns home to become a rich yet very traumatized man. It took me around 6 hours of trying to get this ending, and when I succeeded, Kahara had no arms and was suffering of leprosy and severe poisoning. So his life of luxury was probably quite painful and short-lived. By this point I got tired of this shit, so I cheated to get these last 2 endings. Don't worry, getting filtered is part of the authentic Fear and Hunger experience. In the entrance there's 2 debug tiles. Interacting with them gives you items and party members. Back to the topic, Enki's ending requires you getting a soul anchor and then attempting to ascend into a new god. The anchor prevents the godly transformation, leaving the would-be ascended as a mortal, but with the experience of an ascension. You get this anchor by befriending Nosramus. Turns out that the current new gods venture into the dungeons as a party of 5. However, Nosramus refused to ascend into godhood, believing that enlightenment cannot be achieved by simply being granted power. He stayed in the dungeons, achieving eternal youth and studying for centuries. Enki seems to have followed the same path. Finally, the coolest and hardest ending goes to Ragnavaldr. You have to kill every major enemy in the game and take their soul. Once you do that, you just have to snatch the Cube of the Depths and confirm that Legard is dead. After leaving the dungeon, Rags then dedicates the rest of his life to vanquishing the evils of the world, becoming as restless and relentless as the darkness he fights. Now that you know the game in and out, at least as much as I do, I can begin explaining the intricacies of the lore. I would have rather told you at the beginning, but you needed a context of what happens in-game before you can really understand what happens outside the events that we play. So everything gets set into motion because Legard wants to become a god. Not a flimsy new god, but rather something closer to the older gods. His method of doing so is encompassing the 4 concepts of the new gods at the same time. Domination through war, enlightenment via occultic studies, endlessness from having Hyperborean dream sex with Nilben, and torment via getting tortured in the dungeon. But to become a god, one must sit in the Throne of Ascension, right? And to get to the throne, one must open the doors to Mahabre using the Cube of the Depths. Legard knew of this, and as such raided Ragnavaldr's tribe to take the cube by force. Having committed unjustified violence against innocent people, and knowing he'll get persecuted for it, he lets himself be captured by the Kingdom of Rondon. This is done intentionally since the dungeon is built on top of the ancient city of the gods. Now here's where things get stupid. Legard and the cube are brought down into the dungeons and the cube starts to seriously affect the place. The guards and personnel start to go insane and eventually mutate into many of the enemies we see in the game, becoming a sort of manifestation of their base desires. I guess they really wanted penis enlargement pills. But how did Legard plan on escaping imprisonment and getting to the throne? My guess is that the guy was enough of a narcissist and enamored so much with the prophecy surrounding him that he was fully convinced that someone would come and rescue him. Though considering how he's only relevant and successful in one ending, the man was really pushing his luck. Anyhow, Legard gets taken down into the lowest levels of the dungeon by a high priestess, which might have been Nilven in disguise, seeking to be impregnated by him. This being the case would explain the girl's presence in the dungeon, with the question of her age being waved away by the strange flow of time present in Mahabharata. The importance of the girl's birth and conception comes into light when we look into All-Mer. Now, I know I haven't mentioned him yet, since in the game we see nothing of him beyond his corpse, but nonetheless he has an important role in gameplay, as there are a few spells under his domain, and the entire empty scroll mechanic works because you're granted wishes by praying to him. Also, you can give him a boner if you cast necromancy on his corpse. All-Mer is basically ultra-violent evil Jesus. He was born from a human mother and a new god father, and ascended into godhood, becoming a being equal in power with the old gods. And this process of ascending a demi-human into something beyond is exactly what Nilben seeks to replicate. The current 4 new gods were seeking to bridge the gap in power between them and the older ones, but have since realized it is impossible. Turns out that for all their power, they are still puppets in the grand scheme of things. As it becomes more obvious in-game that godhood is not all it's cut out to be, it becomes quite evident how stubborn and arrogant Legard really is. Allow my friend, the Doom Prophet, voice what Nash'rah, a recruitable party member who is a new god himself, has to say on the matter.
You ridiculous self-indulging maggot. What are you even going to do with the power of the new gods? Are you too trying to push for a new world order? An order where the cruelties of the older gods would only be a passage in the history books? You fool. That is not the part of the new gods. New gods, in fact, are just a creation of the rules of the old. They are there to guide mankind like cattle to the slaughtering grounds. I'm sick and tired of hearing about the old world order and the new world order. Order this, order that. Mankind is not meant for an order. Our place is in chaos. Humans originate from chaos. It's a 1 in a billion coincidence that we even exist. Why would you try to control our existence and put it under an order? For mankind to truly be free from the reign of the older gods, we must strive for chaos. What's the matter, little bastard baby? Did I just crush your miserable worldview and beliefs?
Ooh, get dunked on, retard. My interpretation of this scene is that, considering the general disappointment the new gods have with their status, humans have true free will, but new gods don't. My theory is that in the process of ascension, the subject becomes tied to causality and destiny. Godhood comes with the price of becoming a puppet to the forces of the universe, while humans retain the ability to act out of their own volition. If we look for confirmation in the game's sequel, Termina, we see that Legard failed in his ambitions, but in a way Nilben succeeded in hers. With power akin to an older god, the little girl, now the god of fear and hunger, pushes mankind into rapid technological progress, using the concept of fear and hunger to whip us into a frenzy. See, it's interesting because it seems like all endings present in the game are canonical. Ragnvaldr has a descendant dedicated to hunting evil just as he did, and who is accompanied by a rather large Moonless. Legard is present in his godly form, but casting Rot on him makes him look like when Darcy resurrected him. Nash'rah appears as a burnt head, which is what happens to him if we take him to the Gorogor god fight, and we even see Enki's written works. Kahara is the only one who didn't leave a noticeable mark, but he seemed to wish for a quiet life. Some people argue that the most logical probability is that he took the girl to the Heart of Darkness and thus died, but my gut tells me that all possibilities are true at the same time because of the reality warping nature of the dungeon. All in all, I think that covers the game's main story from top to bottom, and while it is very interesting, I think what makes the game's world building really shine is all the little details you piece together while playing the game. Things like seeing how factions like the Dark Priests, Holy Knights and Yellow Mages operate and create context for the story, or even reading folktales and tying them together to what we see in-game. All this is really interesting, but also very easy to miss. Party interactions are the perfect example of this. For as short as the sequences are, there's a lot of characterization packed in there, like, you really get a sense for the Delvers' personalities. And in my first playthrough, I saw none. I didn't expect the noble barbarian and the deranged priest to get along and to motivate each other while on the brink of sanity, but they do, and it's really cool. To be honest though, it's not like the game is super dense and bursting to the seams with lore, but I think that it feels much richer than it would be at face value because of the effort you have to put in to get information. See, the developer made this game as a practical part of his thesis on horror in video games, wherein he states that he purposely broke conventional or good game design in favor of reinforcing narrative themes. According to his logic, if you're trying to give the player the feeling of surviving a violent dungeon against all odds, you should give him a harsh and oppressive experience. That's why there is no leveling, limb loss is permanent, and simple bad luck can end your run. The game is not supposed to be fun in the strict sense, but rather provide an engaging experience. Any tidbit of lore you discover becomes extra interesting because of how hard it is to uncover, and dominating the game feels extra rewarding because you can lose at any small misstep. Seeing how popular the game has become, I would call this experiment on game design a success. I don't think that many people would have expected that a game that features sexual violence, war, and even children being ritually sacrificed would make waves through any other means other than outrage. Even more so considering it's kinda not fun to play. But it is popular, and I think that speaks volumes about how one shouldn't hold their hand on creating art as long as the intention is properly articulated. You can opt to handle taboo subjects with skill instead of caution by maintaining that tone consistent. Which is why we've got stuff like Dungeon Nights, an unlockable gameplay mode where you roam as the characters of the game to get a date for prom. You're a student of Fear and Hunger Academy and you've only got 4 days to find a partner, but to your dismay, everybody's either insane or high maintenance. You'll have to use all your skills as a fuckboy or fuckgirl to say and do the exact things your target finds attractive. Succeed and you get to have a dance party in the dungeons. Thanks for watching this very long and very strange video. Quick announcement, all the 3D assets you can download. Big thank you to the Doom Prophet for lending me his fantastic voice, and to Velity Art for lending me his art. Go check him out. Velity has a personal project going on which looks very cool, and the Doom Prophet is releasing some pretty good videos, so